Hi everybody, Ross from My Hammers 11. I hope you're all safe and well. If you use your channel, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell notification button so you're made aware of any time we put new content on. We've got videos going up daily, but sometimes I might be in a good mood. We might have just beaten Chelsea or something like that. You know, these things happen. And I put on 2-3 videos a day, so make sure you hit that button because every story, every memory, every opinion is worthy, and so I don't want you to miss any of them. Today's guest, for example, he was part of that amazing 1999 youth FA Cup winning squad. He's now does a lot of work for, obviously we'll talk about the type of work he does now, but he does a lot of work for the FSA, and also he is assistant manager at Aldershot Town, indeed. Also, which I think is really, really cool, doing a bit of delving into his past, he was obviously the first British Asian to captain a professional side in the first 4 divisions of English football, which is absolutely amazing. It's Anwar Uddin. Hi Anwar, how you doing, man?
I'm very well. I'm pleased to be on here with you.
Thank you very, very much for your time. I gather you're a very busy man at the moment.
Well, judging by how you introduced me, you've got a sample into my life, because you know when someone says, "Hello, mate, what do you do?" I sort of like, right, deep breath. And there you go. So it's quite a complicated one in terms of what I do. But in short, I just say I work in football. But no, proud to be doing all that I'm doing, working in sort of football governance, and obviously still with Aldershot Town as assistant manager. So still in the game I love. So happy, but as you said, very busy.
Yeah, very busy. And obviously, as you said, part of your remit is sort of, you know, is liaising with football fans and groups and bodies, and it's probably never a dull moment for you at the moment.
No, it's always really, really interesting. I mean, just this morning, you know, talking to some Wigan fans about the uncertainty with their club, and actually had a similar call just before I got on here with Newcastle fans, because is there a takeover? Is there not a takeover? How do we prepare for that? What's going to change? I think football fans, you know, they're that constant in every single club, and I think it's really important that everyone actually remembers that and is aware of that, because players come and go. I mean, I was fortunate enough to play for about 15 teams in my career, and you know, you come, you love it, and then you leave, but the fans are still there, and I think it's important that they feel like they have an insight as to what's going on, why it's going on. Because unfortunately, like this year, you know, you've seen teams like Bury that have gone out of business. And I mean, we're not talking about teams that have been around for a few years. We're talking about teams that are steeped in history, stadiums. You know, what do their football fans do? You know, you've almost got to choose: do I support a new team, or do I wait until we, you know, start a new team from the bottom up? So, lots to do. But working with football fans is a joy, actually, because, you know, it is a job, but it don't feel like it at times.
No, I get that. Yeah, I know. And obviously, you know, you were set in your career, both from a player's perspective and obviously coaching management, with your time at West Ham. And that's the idea of the channel. It's all about memories and stuff like that. So when did you actually, because obviously you came from the youth team and stuff, when did you start playing at West Ham, Emma?
So I was like a late developer. So everyone at West Ham in my kind of age group were at West Ham from a really young age. So like literally 8s and 9s. And I was a really late developer. I came in at the under 12 level, which obviously sounds really young. It is really young. But actually, you know, when I came into the club, you had players like Joe Cole that had been here for a little while, and a few others that have been here a little while. And at under 12, I was fortunate. I mean, it's crazy to think about it now, but I was in talks with Manchester United, Arsenal, Tottenham, Norwich, Ajax, because I was really big for my age, and I played in midfield. But because I was so big, a lot of the managers and coaches played me at centre half, and I was like a ball playing centre half, which is quite rare for someone of my size. And I think it kind of, when the West Ham scouts always saw me, it was like, right, that's kind of the exact kind of player that we like, someone who can play multi-positions. And, you know, when I sort of had a chat with all the clubs and looked at their, you know, facilities and went around and saw the teams and the players that they had, you know, when I went in to watch West Ham, God, the players you had were just the best kids in the country at that time. And looking back now, if I'd have gone to a smaller club, I may have maybe got into the first team earlier
Yeah.
and maybe had a decent career there. But I just felt like, you know what, if you want to be the best, you want to be around the best. And it was a purple patch, call it what you want, a golden generation, but there was so much talent. And I thought, what a privilege to be with these kids every single day, to grow old with these kids, to learn with these kids, and to be part of a club that's my local club ultimately. And that was it. Decision was made. So I joined at 12 and I was there for 7-8 years.
Yeah, crazy. What crazy, isn't it? Just that, even at that age, and I was never good enough to even think about that. But obviously going to all these other clubs, and you had, at the age of like 12, as you said, even nowadays it's 8 and 9s. It's mental to think that kids make a decision. They have these clubs clambering after them.
I mean, to be honest, one of the reasons why I went to West Ham was because it is crazy, as you rightly say, and you do get a lot of pressure. I mean, I don't want to name names, but clubs were offering my parents incentives, shall we say?
Yeah.
And there was, don't go to them because they're bad. Don't go to them because he's bad. But one thing about West Ham was it was that it was a little bit of a family environment, and everyone seemed to just want to look after you and have your best interests at heart. And for me, I have to say, like, I was in a school and all my best mates growing up were West Ham fans. And it was all talked about. It was all we watched. And it's just that, if you've got all the best teams in the world and your local club that wants you, I just feel like it adds something that they can't compete with. And for me, that was a massive thing. And obviously, when I signed for West Ham at 12, I was bowling around my school like I was, like I was Lionel Messi, because everyone obviously supports the club. And I've got all the gear, I've got all the West Ham gear, I've got my season ticket. I'm like, I'm part of the gang. So I'll tell you what, it made me feel on top of the world. But that was just a start, because there's one thing about getting in the door. But when you're in an environment where you've got the best players in the country, every single year is a challenge, because if you fall off of it and you're not as good, they'll just get someone from around the world. There you go. He's a better centre half from Australia, from Brazil, from Scotland. So it was a tough environment, and you had to continue to improve. But what a joy! I mean, being at school and coming in at part time, and then obviously when I joined full time, to be in the Chadwell Heath every single day with some of my idols was just, it was a dream come true. And you know what? People say, if you'd have gone to another club, you might have had a better career, in terms of it would have been easier to get into a Leyton Orient's first team or a Southend United's first team. But the memories that I have, no one can take away from me. And I think that is something that's special. Going around the world with a team, and having friends that are now world-class players, and just seeing the club that you love so much. I just think you can't buy that. So I don't regret my decision, but obviously always look back with a little bit of regret, because to go from like 12 all the way to the age of 19, 20, you get there and you're with the first team, you're traveling around the country, and you're sitting there and Harry Redknapp reads out the squad, and you're like, man, I'm missing out again. That's another stand I'm going to sit in. And then you're announced on the squad, and you think, right, this might be it. And then again, you're the 18th man. So it was tough, but ultimately it was all about timing, because I was at the club when, in my opinion, it was probably one of the best times for the club. I think we finished fifth in the Premier League, which would have been my kind of breakthrough season. And to be honest, if you've got someone like Rio Ferdinand keeping you out at a team, it's not the worst thing in the world, I suppose.
No, and you had some fantastic players you were playing with. Even at training, at Chadwell, it must, as you said, there was that period was definitely a purple patch, particularly in my fan career at West Ham with Harry, because it was just crazy. I mean, particularly now, Harry was there for 7 years at West Ham, and you don't get 7 years out of a manager now. If you get 3 years now, you've done well in it. And but I mean, as you said, that, and obviously that's your youth sort of career culminated in obviously that 1999. We talk about it. There was it was 20 years, or just over 20 years ago. And obviously you're right. That was a purple patch for West Ham, for the academy, wasn't it? I mean, we had Tony Carr on, and that was his. He did his 11, and it was pretty awesome. Academy 11, to be honest.
I can imagine that 11 would have been quite something. I mean, as I said, the amount of quality that was there was unbelievable. But what I think people don't realise is that initially there was probably 2 or 3 players that stood out. Michael Carrick, Joe Cole, from a young age, they were just like from another planet.
Yeah.
Everywhere we went, consistently good. And at times it was bad for me because it was quite boring. I mean, I remember playing games and we're 6-0 up and I'm playing centre half and I'm sitting here thinking, what about my development? I want a challenge, but they couldn't get the ball off Joe Cole, Michael Carrick. And then we had the likes of Leon Britton and Richard Garcia, all these. And I'm sitting here at the back thinking, so I said to Tony, I say, Gaffer, any chance I can go and play out front or in midfield so I can have a bit of a run at? Because we were so dominant in some games, obviously against the lesser sides, that it was just strange. But against the better teams, the Arsenals were always good. Manchester United's always strong. That was a different story. But those boys, you know, they're on a different planet. But my point was that the likes of players like the Leon Brittons, Jermaine Defoe's, the Glenn Johnsons, the Richard Garcias, they got better being around those players, you know. And there was players that probably didn't go on to have the careers in which I actually think they could have had. There was lads like Sean Byrne, Michael Franti, Darryl McMahon, and they were good players. But being around Joe, Michael Carrick and all the lads, and then watching what Frank Lampard and Rio were doing slightly, you know, above us, it just pushed everyone. It pushed everyone. And actually, to see some of the boys improve in which the way they did, there's no surprise for me that, you know, some of them have gone on not just to have good careers, but, you know, they've had world-class careers, played for England. If only we kept them all, that would have been a good thing.
Would have been lovely, wouldn't it? Would have been lovely, you know, with that sort of the golden era, as I call it, the academy, with a few, you know, with the Paolos of this world and a few Harry Deals. It would have been, you know, I mean, I've been lucky enough to interview Harry in the channel as well. And he basically said, and it's been quoted by quite a few, I think a lot of people have watched it and haven't sourced me for it, but I'm not bothered with the interview. But basically said, you know, if I'd kept them 6, we'd have won the league, no problem. You know, no hands down. You know, you talk about the class, and you talk about the class of '92, we would have been that, you know, just as good. And I don't think you could disagree when you look at them individually, what they did as individuals. And it's a West Ham way, Anwar, in terms of, you know, we're just used to it. I mean, you know, when your war chant song is about bubbles fading and dying, you know, you've already put yourself on a plinth, so to speak. But anyway, so as I said, what we just spoke just before we started, you know, we like to do this Hammers 11. So the idea is we pick everyone we get on, we get to pick their 11. If they were picking a West Ham 11. Now, obviously, you know, what would be good to get your take on, obviously, all the types of generations and stuff as well, because there's obviously certain players in certain generations which meant a lot to you, particularly, obviously, you know, coming through, as I said before, being the first British Asian to captain a professional football team in England is an incredible achievement and stuff. And so, you know, there wasn't a lot of diversity really in the English game. And obviously, from you onwards, a lot more coming. I know you do a lot of stuff on Twitter and stuff about diversity, and obviously everything with Black Lives Matters and it's really not topical, but it's forefront, and it should be. So it'd be great to get your handle on your Hammers 11, Anwar. You can play, you know, carte blanche for you, man. You can do whatever formation you want. I'll start off in goal, and you can just crack on, and I'll figure it out afterwards.
No, listen, most definitely. I'll try to be as traditional as possible so it don't complicate it. But for me, like, as I say, growing up, watching West Ham, talking about West Ham, I started watching West Ham when I was really, really young. I fell in love with football after Italian 90, and sort of after that 90s period, that's when I was like, I thought football was a game show. Pavarotti singing, Italian 90, England, Gascoigne, Lineker, and that was for me when it was like, I love this, and I'm like, right, my local club, I'm gonna start to learn about some of the characters that got there, and, you know, see if I can get some of that romance from Italian 90 at Upton Park. And I did, and I loved going. I remember my first games, but judging by that period, like Ludek McCloskey was just like a mountain, and it was a goalkeeper for me that when I was thinking about this, Shaka Hislop was brilliant with me in a changing room, and Shaka Hislop is now an honorary patron of Show Racing the Red Card. Fantastic human being, and also a great goalkeeper. And I was thinking, out of the two of them, it would be a tough decision. But McCloskey was just someone who I've never met many men of that size, and I've played for 17 years at every level, that was so agile. Like, he was a big man, but he could manage to sort of get from one end of the goal to the others. He had that kind of, that Inspector Gadget type arm and leg. But he was brilliant. And when I went back to the club as the coach, really welcoming and made me feel part of the family, because yes, I was there for a long time, but I didn't break into the first team and play as many games as I would have loved. But he treated me like I was part of the family, and it was like, oh, great to have back. And but yeah, so him as a person, as a player, brilliant. I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah. Shaq is a great. We've got Shaq coming on next week, so yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Looking forward to that, man. Yeah, looking forward to that. Yeah, all right, we'll put Ludo in goal. Okay, right. Carry on. You just go through them as you want to go through them, Anwar.
So yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this, and there's probably a few on here that will probably raise a few eyebrows, but I've got a bit of context. Yeah, I've got a bit of context as to why. So, I mean, right back, I really, really like Sebastian Schemmel. I think he's a really good player. And I know he didn't have a long career at the Hammers, but when I was breaking through and I started to sort of train with the first team, I remember one of the first, it was a year or two, he had such a good season. He was like a modern day right back. But back then, right backs were traditionally kind of very static, you know, like get the ball at your feet, put it down the line. And then this lad come along, and he was bombing on, overlapping, getting crosses in. And I got on really, really well with him. And at that time, West Ham, I have to say, was a bit of a crazy place. We had players from all over the world, as well as really, really quality English players. But English players like Johnny Moncur, Neil Ruddock, that loved and knew how to create a changing room. The balance was ridiculous. And some of the foreign players that came over, I wouldn't say found it tough, but some of them just embraced it. And Schemmel was one of them that embraced it, because I remember like people like Schemmel and Ripka, they were just as crazy as the lads over here that were crazy. And then you put them all together, and I'm walking into this changing room at 18, like in the first thing, thinking, right, this is all going to be serious and professional. It was all mad. But I took that into my career, because that's what you need. You need that. You know, football shouldn't be boring. It should be lively. There should be a buzz about the place, and you want to be in an environment where you push and pull each other. But on the pitch, it's all right. If you need to be told, you're told. And Sebastian Schemmel was someone that came over and just embraced that nuttiness. And I thought for a season, I just thought he was brilliant. So I know that might raise a few eyebrows.
It was Hammer of the Year that season, Anwar.
I thought he was brilliant.
There's not many guys who come in, foreign-based players as well, who come in at right back, not a particularly glamorous position, and then end up being Hammer of the Year. You know what I mean? It's like
that was really good. The other full-back spot goes to Julian Dix at left back. Again, growing up, you know, it was very easy to sort of have role models like the Gary Linekers, the Mark Hughes that were scoring the goals, playing for the big teams, but he was just like an anomaly in football. His shirt was always hanging off. His socks were always low. He just looked like the angriest person you'd ever seen on the TV. And he didn't disappoint when we met him as a youth team player, because I think he sort of carried that through. That's not just an act. That's the way he is. When he trains like that. He is 100% full throttle. There is no second gear with him. But I think, you know, you need that, because, to be honest, it's a dying breed. I mean, I made my living on being an aggressive, old-school defender, like a Julian Dix. And you look at the game now, how many of them are around, really? You know, there's not many. But I tell you what, like, he's just the kind of player that if he was on a team sheet at West Ham, you knew exactly what he's going to get. You're going to get blood and thunder. And he'll give you the odd penalty that he'd smash in and try and break the net. So I think it's a hard choice, because obviously you've got Stuart Pearce, who's got a great career.
Exactly.
But for me, West Ham, Julian Dix is a West Ham man. So he goes left back. Centre halves for me, Rio Ferdinand, just an unbelievable player. It was a joy to share a dressing room, share a training pitch with him. You know, at a young age, he was actually a striker when he started off, and then he went back into midfield and ended up being a centre half. But he was just, you know, like, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I want to be in an environment where I can watch these players and learn from the best. And I did, because he was, I think, the very best.
Yeah.
Just composure, calm, great size, great attitude, and no surprise he had the career that he did. But a fantastic player and a great lad, actually, South London, and he was one that always looked after the young lads. One of my good mates, Stephen Clark, was he's boot boy, and at Christmas he got a massive tip off for Rio. I had Javier Margas and Ian Pearce, who are great lads, but when we talked about a tip, Ian Pearce just told me to kick it out of the stand, and Javier Margas just didn't even say anything.
Get it?
So,
yeah.
Rio, great lad,
I had
good with the young lads as well.
We had Bertie on, and Bertie was saying he was Paolo's boot boy, and basically, like, when it was Christmas, Paolo went, come here, and they walked out to his car, opened the door, opened the boot. He went, there we go. It was a pair of brand new boots that Paolo wore, which were 2 sizes too small for Bertie, and came with no shoelaces either. So it's like, what the fuck have I got to do with these? But yeah, no.
But I mean, the lads are quality. I mean, Ian Pearce was an interesting one because he was size 13 and he had about 20 pairs of boots. So I thought, Pearce, surely, like, it's Christmas. I've been working hard for you. And, he was Pearce is a great lad, by the way. But yeah, he didn't reward me financially like some of the others, like the Canio's and the Lampards and the Rios. But no, I think because Rio came through the academy.
Exactly, yeah.
When he saw us sweeping up the stadium, I mean, at Chadwick, there's an indoor football pitch.
Yeah.
And I used to have to vacuum it with a Henry. It used to take me ages. And then, and I'd always finish. And I'd finish and I'd go to Peter Brake with Tony Carr. I'm done. Like, can you have a check? And they'd go no. Just do it again, for a bit of a laugh. And they'd always say, like, don't worry about it. It's good. But that was kind of how it was. And I think because Rio came through that, he looked after the young boys. So that's Rio at centre half. He's centre half partner for me. Another one that might raise you up, Steve Potts. I know Steve can play it right back or midfield, but I watched him a lot at centre half. I played a lot of games with him, actually, but I just was amazed at his levels of consistency. One of the nicest men in the world, by the way, but just amazed at his levels of consistency. You put him a right back, he'll do a job. He might not score a screamer. I don't think he scored any goals, maybe one. He might not. You might not see him, doing all the amazing things that some of their superstars did. But I tell you what, no matter where you put him, no matter when it was, what time of year, he always gave you a really reliable performance. And to do that so consistently, for me, as a manager and a coach, they're players that literally, they are so integral to any team. You need them. You can't have a team full of, Di Canios and Berkoviches and that without Steve Potts. You can't have them. Don't work. So that's why he's in my team. Mr. Reliable and an absolute smashing gentleman.
And someone that small should be that good at centre half.
No, he gave everyone hope. But I actually think he was quite underrated. I know he was reliable, but he could read the game so well, and he had that calmness in possession, which I thought actually, because it was just Steve Potts, isn't it? It's Potsy. It's Potsy. But actually, I think Potsy could have ended up getting a move and been a great part of any team. But great player for me, and obviously great to sort of have the opportunity to play with him. And obviously, when I went back to West Ham as an academy coach, he was there at the 18s, and he was sort of starting his journey, which was good to see. So that's my back four done. Midfield was really tough, but in central midfield, I've gone with Carrick to take the fourth position. As I've alluded to, Michael Carrick just was a super football player, and he was slightly different to a lot of central midfield players because he was tall and he was so composed, and he had an unbelievable way with the ball. He could manipulate it. He had the ability to dictate football matches. I remember when we were growing up, so many games we'd go to all around the world and play in these competitions. He'd sit in midfield and it'd be like a puppet master. And he'd just sit there, and he worked relatively quick at all, actually. I don't think I've ever seen him sprint. But what a conductor. His range of passing was good. He could see a pass, and great lad, really level-headed. And no surprise for me that he had the career he had, because I think, you know, some of the boys that we had in that academy were superstars, but he actually almost fulfilled his potential and maybe even done a little bit more. Central midfield partner with Carrick, I've gone for Lampard.
Yep.
Again, another one that might, you know, some might deem as controversial, but going on kind of my experiences of him and the players that have played at the club, you know, whilst I was watching as a kid and obviously up until now, I don't think I've ever met anyone that works harder than Frank. And it was interesting because when we were at the club, obviously his family were part of the management, and there was always that question mark. But I have to say, when we were sort of 16, 17 and I had my first year at full time, Frank would not have a day off. So when all the lads were off, he would literally be in and training with the 16s, just to keep sharp, just to keep fit. And I mean, it was a strange one because I always thought, why would he do that? I mean, it's great because obviously you want to be the best you can be. You want to work hard. It was a great example for anyone. But it was almost as if I think he almost felt like he had an extra point to prove. I might be wrong. I might be wrong, but I think, you know, when your family is part of the management and maybe people see that you are someone that's maybe come in via that route, I think he just wanted to make it crystal clear that he was there on merit. And I have to say, like, in terms of all the people I've ever trained with, I've never trained with anyone as who works so hard as Frank. It to the point where it'd get annoying because I'd do a really tough session that had me running around and doing all sorts, and I sit down in the dinner hall and I'm thinking, right, I'm done for the day. Maybe do some weights, and then Frank would tap you on the shoulder and go, right, I'm going back out. Can you do some one-on-one stuff with me, or can you do some running with me? You can't say no.
No.
So, but that just shows the levels, you know, that you have to sort of get to the levels that he did. And when you've got people like that in the camp, all the sort of younger players look at that and go, right, that's what I need to be. That's the level I need to be at. And to be fair to him, I mean, having watched a lot of his games with us, you know, he did really well for us. But again, time at Chelsea was just phenomenal and I think all that hard work that he had at West Ham, the learning, the training, that was that foundation for a superb career. So, you know, I know that famous interview that Harry Redknapp did, that press conference. Fair play to the gaffer because, you know, he was right. So that's Lampard.
Yeah.
Left wing, I've gone for Dimitri Payet. Simply because I just think his flair and his ability, he's just, you know, like one of those players that you just want to play in the Premier League, let alone your club. I thought he was brilliant. And the reason I've got a soft spot for him is because I've got two boys. And one of the first songs either of them ever sang was "We've Got Fire."
So my daughter,
Dimitri. And it's like, and it kind of like, because I've been wrestling with my family for years. Like my family are all half my family are Arsenal fans. So I've been trying to have this wrestling match, and you know, when they started singing a Dimitri Payet song, I owe him a lot more than just you know, being a quality player for us, because he got them buzzing about the Hammers. But he was just one of those players that don't come along very often, and you know, his free kick ability, his ability on the ball, he's just a really good player. Shame he worked with us for longer, but in terms of just players, I was thinking about the players that, you know, almost could be the match winners or could do something that any team in this division would want. I think he was one of them. Definitely. So he gets my left wing spot.
Yep.
Although I don't think he's a right winger, but he's going to do a job for me today, is Al Berkovic.
Yep.
Again, someone that I just really appreciated as a footballer. I just thought he was brilliant. And one of these kind of unassuming characters whereby he came to the club, I think it was like 1.9 million, which was a bargain. You know, he didn't really have that swagger or the look of a professional football player. He's quite quiet, but he could play. He could play. And I think like some of his football and his assists, and sort of he was there just before the likes of the Lampards and the Rios. Everyone started to sort of break in. And he was sort of at that stage where we were still good, and I think he played a big part in that. And I think there was a part, maybe about a year, where he was easily our best player. But for me, just seeing someone like that play effortlessly, the way he sort of like assisted with goals, his passing, his through balls, and he made it look a little bit easier. But
Yeah.
you know, someone like him, I just thought was a superb football player. And I look at all the players that have come and gone, and he's always someone that just sticks out for me.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, yeah, I know what you mean. And we've had, I've been very blessed in terms of people come on. We've had John Hartson on here, and obviously him and Berkovic, yeah, they had their spat. But when we signed Berkovic that season afterwards, John Hartson was the second from top Premier League striker, and he put it down to him, Berkovic, because he just would put these through balls for him all the time, just pick him out.
And that's what I mean, like, you know, Harry Redknapp always used to say, he said, you know, you've got piano players and piano pushers. You need the piano pushers.
Yeah.
I was a piano pusher myself, but Berkovic was someone that made others better. And I think that's why I thought he was, you know, when I think about the best sort of West Ham players I've seen and had the privilege to train with, even in training, it weren't just something that you see on a match day. He was a class above. And as a 16, 17-year-old breaking into the first team, you know, all these players, and he was someone that you think, oh, you know, yeah, he's a bit special. Yeah. So he goes right wing.
Yeah.
In the number 10 spot for me up front, in a supporting role, is Joe Cole.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I can't speak highly enough for Joe, because as a kid, it was scary. He was unbelievable, and West Ham actually ended up playing a friendly game against England, and Joe played for England. We won 5-4 actually, and Joe played for England. I think Joe scored all 4 goals, but I always have it with him, because obviously we beat them and I had him in my pocket, but technically I didn't, because he scored 4 goals. But that was the other centre half's fault.
Yeah, of course.
But on a serious note, you know, like someone you hear about these kids every now and then, you know, that have got a special talent. And I think Joe had that reputation from a very young age.
Yeah.
And it continued. And I think that the Youth Cup final win, that was great, the Youth Cup final win. But what people don't realise, we also won the kind of the under-19 Premier League, the Premier League Cup. We literally were winning everything. Yes, Carrick, Johnson, all the rest of us played a part. But Joe was just that player that when it was tough, when it was 0-0 against Arsenal, you just knew you had someone that could get you that goal and be that match winner. And when he got into the first team, it was no surprise. And I think Joe did well, but I still think that if Joe was with the right team and the right manager that gave him a little bit of a free role and almost not built a side around him, but almost allowed him to express himself, I think he would have had a kind of Messi-like career.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. And
when I say that, people think, yeah, but Lionel Messi. I've seen it firsthand what Joe has done. I've seen him, you know, flick balls over people's heads and nutmeg them and score goals, score 4 and 5. So Joe Cole for me in the 10. I mean, he had a great career after that, played for England, but just what a privilege to play with someone like that. You know, you can't, you know, money could never buy an experience like that. And, you know, I used to say to Joe for years, I used to protect him because everyone used to want to kick him. So Tony Carr and Harry Redknapp would say, right, you're in a team to protect him and him. If anyone kicks Carrick or Cole, the foe, you kick them. And that's all I did. It was brilliant. But no, Coley was class. And obviously my last spot goes to the main man, I think, Paolo Di Canio. I think he's probably going to be in most teams. What a superb player and what an absolute joy to be around. You just never knew, with Paolo, you just never know what you're going to get from him. Yeah. I've kicked him in training before and he's just walked in and not spoken to me for a month. And then literally about a week after that, he comes in and brings his nephew from Italy and tells me, here's some money. My nephew's living with you for a few weeks. Show him London. Paolo, you haven't spoken to me for a month because I kicked you. Okay, look after him and I'll forgive you. So what Paolo didn't realise is I was living with my parents and I had to look after this young Italian kid for a few weeks. But it got me in Paolo's good books. But listen, I mean, you've probably had loads of people talking about Paolo. Superb player. I think we were fortunate to get him because of the circumstances. But yeah, unbelievable talent. Great player, great person. And players like that are just great to have around because they keep you on your toes. And he was superb for the club. And I think it was, you know, what a privilege to have some of the names that we've spoken about on this 11 at our club and had the opportunity to watch them. So that is my 11.
Oh man, well, it's great, man. Thank you. It's been really, really, really lovely, genuinely lovely chatting to you, man. It's been. It's funny. It's funny. You started off like you were still talking to the FA, and by the end, he's like, "Yeah, pal." Like, you know, you got it all. The West Ham was like creeping in. If you just, that's it. It comes in. It's in the fabric of your clothes. You can't get rid of it. You can't get rid of it. Oh, man, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, and obviously thank you to everyone for watching as well. You know, like, share, subscribe. Honestly, the support for the channel is absolutely incredible. You know, the fact that we're hitting like 1,000 subscribers, it's only been live for 6 weeks, is absolutely mental. So thank you everyone for your support. And until next time, for me and Anwar, take care everyone, stay safe, and see you all very, very soon. See you everyone. Bye bye.